Well, I wanted our next guest to come on and talk about the issue of the CBC and a crazy new online music service they had. But I didn't think Ezra Levant would agree to come on the show unless we let him talk about Justin Trudeau. Ezra joins us now from Toronto. Ez, before you open your mouth, I'm going to play you a clip of Justin Trudeau on this whole separatism thing, and then I'm just going to let you go, okay? This is Trudeau reacting to claims that he's a conditional Canadian, a would-be separatist outside the House of Commons earlier. Roll tape.
Canadians shouldn't be asking, ooh, does Justin Trudeau actually want to separate? Of course not. But will Justin Trudeau fight with his very last breath to make sure that this Canada stays the Canada that we collectively know it can be? Absolutely.
Go.
I love you, Shiny Pony. It's Valentine's Day. It's the one day I can express my deep love for you without being mocked. Come back, please. Let me touch your hair. He's so dreamy. The way he overacts, it's like William Shatner in a Star Trek episode. I love how he talks about himself in the third person. Justin Trudeau. People need to know that Justin Trudeau loves you. And I'm gone. And I'm spent. I mean, he's not in his 20s anymore. He's not in his 30s. He's a 40-something-year-old man who sounds and looks like a male Paris Hilton.
And I think the key word that he used in that is collective, because as Eric Duhaime said off the top of the show, he has essentially told the world that he's more of a socialist than a federalist, because I don't think he cleared up anything with his comments after the House. No. He is still saying, well, this isn't the right kind of Canada.
Yeah.
And before he had said if it's not the right kind of Canada, he would leave. If it's not socialist enough, he's out of here.
You know, there's a lot of things I don't like about his father, Pierre Trudeau. He was a socialist. He demilitarized Canada. He sent us away from America and towards a European or socialist approach to life. A lot of problems, but the one thing that Pierre Trudeau did is he fought against Quebec separatists. And I truly believe that if Pierre Trudeau saw the comment from his own son today, he would give him a political scorching. I mean, it's one thing to be disappointed in the political direction of the country. I am often myself. But for Justin Trudeau, who claims to be a Federalist MP, who pretends one day to be the leader of the Liberal Party, to say, you know what, if we keep losing arguments, if we keep electing Conservatives, I might want to separate, that shows that he doesn't actually believe in a Canadian democracy where you try, you fight, you argue, you debate, but you accept the democratic result. That's Justin Trudeau's way of saying, if you don't agree with me, I'm leaving and I'm taking Quebec with me. It's an un-Canadian point of view.
I'll have to leave it at this, Ezra, and we'll move on to CBC. But the two things he mentioned, abortion and gay marriage, neither of them were supported by his father nor his party. They came to us through the courts, not the democratic process. CBC. They've launched a new online service. You and I talked about this a little while ago, and they were very vague at the beginning. It looked like they were going to launch iTunes. Instead, they've launched CBC's version of Iceberg Radio or Pandora, RDIO.com. They're replicating what's happening. Look at that. Whitney Houston playing right now on Adult Pop on CBC's radio. What do you make of this now that you've had a chance to look?
Well, you know what? I've read the Broadcasting Act. That is a Canadian law that gives birth to the CBC and that compels us through our government to give $1.1 billion a year. And it doesn't mention the internet. It doesn't mention iTunes or an iTunes knockoff or streaming audio online. It mentions TV and radio. So what you have here are a bunch of excited young businessmen who, instead of going out there in the private sector and raising money to take on Apple and iTunes, have said, you know what, we got a better idea. Let's join the government so we don't have to actually make real business decisions, because we can go indulge our own larks and go into the internet music business, just like they went into the internet porn business a few weeks ago, and Canadians will pay for it. Now, what bugs me about this most, Brian, is that there are private companies in Canada trying to make a go of it, doing the same thing.
Iceberg, which is owned by Astral, has been around since the 90s, and they promote Canadian music. This one, first time I logged on, it was Kelly Clarkson and Aerosmith.
Well, and just like the CBC television gives you Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, in 2012, it's very difficult to make the case that the CBC is in Canada's national interest. maybe 25 years ago, before there were 500 channels on your TV, before there was YouTube and Netflix and iTunes, maybe 50 years ago, before we had even things like Bravo or Arts and Entertainment. But seriously, today, when it's just another example of the CBC looking to keep busy and to build empires on our dime, Brian.
But you know that our fans, and we have many in the press gallery pack, Ezra, you and I mean, they especially love you and I. You know that when the budget comes down, if CBC gets a 1 or 2% cut, they will lose their minds. If they get the full 10% cut, the world will be ending. Yeah. I mean, I've been telling government guys, you guys can cut CBC by 3%. You could cut in half the rest of the government. They won't notice because they'll be focused on CBC. The press gallery pack will lose their mind at CBC getting any cut. They will talk about how awful Stephen Harper is. To me, the fact that they're investing in this, they're paying for porn to put online, tells me they have too much money already. Doesn't matter if we cut them. They've got too much. Cut them way back.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. And I think the reason a lot of other journalists who don't work for the CBC support the CBC is because it's sort of like the Senate for journalists. I mean, just like if you're a failed politician, well, if you cross your fingers and suck up to the government, they'll appoint you to the Senate. Well, if you're a failed journalist or a journalist who doesn't like working in the private sector, if you suck up to the CBC, maybe they'll hire you at a huge fat government salary and you'll join a union and they'll never be fired and you never have to go through the kind of cutbacks that private sector's companies do. Listen, we work for Quebec. We're a private company. You know what? There's been some layoffs in this company. That's no secret. There's layoffs in every company in the free market, but not in the CBC. It's immune to the recession.
And they won't complain when you and I get laid off, Ezra. No. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Stick around. We've got more. Ez, thanks so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.